All right, everybody, welcome to the late edition of August's CanaryWharf.net user group. I apologize for the background noise because I'm actually in London at the moment, and it's there's a little bit of activity going on right now where I am. This month, we are privileged enough to have Amber Vanderburg speaking with us on building and leading remote teams, which is obviously a fantastically relevant talk given the current COVID-19 pandemic. So, without further ado, obviously we have to thank our sponsors, which are JetBrains, Endepend, and Redgate. And at the end of the talk, we will be raffling off a license for any one of the products in JetBrains All Products Pack. So whether that's Rider, ReSharper, or anything else that you might, or maybe even IntelliJ Professional Edition, you're allowed to use your raffle prize to pick one product for redemption for a 12-month license. All right, so that's all the free stuff. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Amber to present her talk. How about that?
All right. Thank you so much, Jamie. I am so excited to be here. I am actually in the United States, but I have been drinking my tea all day, so I've been preparing for this event.
Fantastic.
I think I had 4 cups this morning, so now I am well prepared.
Fair enough. Strange enough for a British person, I am not a tea person at all. I am very much a coffee person. It's very, very strange. I can't explain it. I'm an anomaly in terms of British people.
Well, I think that we've changed places then, because many of you drink coffee.
Yeah. All right. Well, I've now made you host, so if you want to go ahead and share your screen for your presentation, then by all means, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I'm actually just going to be talking. It's going to be a little bit more of a
Okay.
conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a little bit more of a conversation and some tips that you guys can have. So
Sure.
so today we are going to be talking about building and leading remote teams, which, as Jamie said, is very prevalent in today's new landscape that we are emerging into.
Absolutely.
My name is Vanderburg, and I am the founder of this group called the Pathwayz Group, and so we work with teams all over the world, mostly remotely now, helping them build and lead remote teams. Usually right now I've been traveling from my house. Now, it's important that we first acknowledge that remote teams are actually, not all remote teams are made equal. There are a variety of different variations of remote teams. See, there are some remote teams that are globally remote, meaning we have people from all over the world. And that's going to be a little bit different in our policy and the way we're building our teams and in the way that we're engaging our team members than a team that is domestically remote, meaning we have people that we all live in the same place. We're all in London. We're all in the same city, but we're all working from home. That's going to be a little bit different in the way that we're engaging people. And then as we emerge into this new landscape, as we're able to come into society once again, there is an emergence of hybrid remote teams. And so those are teams that spend some time in the office, and so they're able to have that face-to-face time, and then they also work at home as well. And so there's a variety of different types of remote teams, and that's really important to keep in mind as we're moving forward in engaging our team members. And also,
Oh, I appear to have lost connection. Amber, you still with me? Amber, you there?
is an overwhelming phrase to some people, but I really simplify HR and building teams into 4 major pillars. And if you're operating within these 4 major pillars in building and leading your team, then you're probably doing all right. And so the 4 major things that you need to do is first to build your team. Really, it's that simple. That's the first thing that you have to do, is to build your team. So I actually build a team like I'm laying bricks. And if you're a hiring manager, you are a decision maker in the future of the company of your team. Because recruitment, it's literally how organizations are building the future. Now, whenever I'm working with remote teams, we often have a conversation in what our ideal team player looks like. What should we be looking for in a remote team member? Is it different than a brick and mortar employee? What types of questions should we be looking for? Is it personality, experience, education? I was working with one hybrid remote team as their HR director a few years ago, and we had a serious discussion about what our ideal team player was. And I found that one of my favorite leadership gurus, Patrick Lencioni, actually writes that the ideal team player is humble, hungry, and smart. I'll say that again. They're humble, they're hungry, and they're smart. Now, that all sounds good and fine, but what do we actually ask in our interviews? What specifically are we looking for? See, a humble team player is someone that is trainable and they're open to a healthy conversation. They don't have big egos and they truly are a team player. This is going to be really important in our remote teams because we are constantly going to be training and we need to find someone that is adaptable and that they're going to be able to listen to others and admit mistakes as learning opportunities. In remote teams, the likelihood of misunderstandings due to miscommunication and cultural misunderstanding, especially in a globally remote team, is massive. So a humble team member must be able to acknowledge those misunderstandings and be proactive in learning about other cultures, communication styles, and really different ways of work. They have to be adaptable. And so whenever you are recruiting for a humble team member, I want you to ask specifically about their experience when working with different cultures and communication styles. Ask specifically about adapting to new landscapes and new dynamics. Right now, we are flexing our change adaptability muscles right and left. It seems like we are consistently changing in these turbulent times. And so it's important that we ask if the players that we're hiring on our team are going to be adaptable to that change. And also ask them about any misunderstandings or miscommunications and how they have or they would have handled that situation. Remember, it's important that you seek a team member that is humble, that is trainable. You also want to seek a team member that is hungry. Now, a hungry team member doesn't just have a big appetite. See, a hungry team member is someone that is always longing and to improve and to be better. They love to take on new opportunities and they have a good work ethic and a drive to grow. Hungry people have an energy and a passion that is unmatched compared to the warm bodies that fill some organizations. You want to recruit a hungry team member. And whenever you are recruiting, whenever you're building that team, I want you to ask about something for which they've worked really hard. I want you to ask them about how they spend their free time, about their work ethic as a youngster. And see, these types of questions will help you get an idea of the hunger or the willingness to train, the longing to continue to improve within your team. Right now in this season, we are continuously adapting and we are continuously improving in the way that we are working. And so it's important that we have people on our team that are not only okay with the fact of having continuous training and continuous improvement, but they're actually longing for those opportunities. So I want you to ask specifically for team members that are hungry. And then the third factor that you should look for whenever you are building your team, building your remote team, is finding a team member that is smart. So we're going to find someone that is humble, that is trainable, that is hungry, that is always longing to improve and wants to be trained. And again, especially in these current in this current season, having that technological advancements and being willing to continuously learn is so important. And then you want to find someone that is smart.
One thing I was going to just wanted to chip in there, Amber. I wanted to say there's one thing I do remember, which is a sort of very old expression, which is the chief finance officer of a business says, "What happens if we invest in our staff? If we invest in the training, to improve the skill set of our staff, and then what happens if they leave?" And the CEO responds and says, "What happens if we don't invest in them and they stay?" Very simply.
Right.
Exactly. That's such a great quote. I love that.
Yeah.
And you see that happen in teams quite often. I always think, I actually used to be a football coach, a soccer coach, but I used to be a football coach for PSG, Paris Saint-Germain. And I always imagined, what if we recruited the best players, we paid them the most money, and
Hmm.
then we never trained? Eventually, we're not going to perform at our highest level, and we're probably not going to win Champions League or any game for that matter, right? If we just have talent and we don't do anything with it and we don't continue to progress, then that's kind of a waste of our time and our money. So yeah, we definitely want to find someone that has that humble, hungry, and smart within teams. And personally, I've used this recruitment style to recruit both sports teams and athletes, and then also on the technical side as well, in recruiting in corporate. So yeah, it's so important. Yeah, and so then that final side is a smart team player. And a smart team player is really someone that is both technically smart, that can actually do the drill, but can also have a but is also has a high EQ as well as a high IQ. So a high EQ is someone that is truly a team player. And again, in a remote team right now, it's so important that we have empathy and that we have the ability to relate to the other people in our teams. It's going to take a level of intentionality that is critical within our relationship building in our teams. So some of the things that I do whenever I am building my remote teams and I am looking for a team player that is smart is I ask them about the relationships that they've had with previous teams. I ask them about working with other teams. And then I ask them about their adaptability to working with different time zones, different cultures. And I ask these types of questions in addition to the technical knowledge as well, and asking, can they actually do the job? So we're going to look for a player that is humble, hungry, and smart. And these are very specific questions that I ask, especially in that recruitment side, within building the team. So that's your first pillar. And that really, again, is so critical from on the front end. But as I said before, what if we recruited the best players and we valued them, we didn't train them? We're probably not going to win our matches. And so the next pillar that I have within building and leading my team is actually valuing our team. Now, engaging people virtually and showing value virtually is going to be a little bit different than than remote. And so again, it comes with a level of intentionality. I've seen some teams get pretty creative in showing the way that they value. Some people are having that relationship side and having happy hours. Some people are sending COVID survivor gift packets. Some
Yeah.
people are being very creative, and this is a good opportunity to flex your creative muscle. So this has been, just really be creative in showing the value of your team. I've seen a lot of organizations, and I've worked with a lot of organizations that are changing the way, your policy. The reality is that nobody really cares about Jeans Friday on a remote team. And that's, it's a perk and it's a benefit that isn't as relevant in a remote team than in a brick and mortar team. And so take some time to be a little bit creative in finding ways to value your team members. Um, I'll give you some examples that we use within our team. As we always start off our meetings with a quick show and tell. We have, and we'll do challenges of finding something, finding two items that one that begins with the first letter of your first name and one that begins with the first letter of your last name. Now, my last name is Vanderburg, so that can get a little bit difficult sometimes. Uh, but it kind of mixes it up, so you can go around the house and you can find something that that can represent yourself, and you can bring that personality and that human side back to your teams and to your organization. And it shows that you care not just about, what someone is outputting, what their output is and what they're doing for the company, but you're actually bringing that human side together. We actually went around one time and brought up the strangest purchase that.
Oh, Amber, I think we're losing you a little bit there. Amber? 1 second, folks. Let's try and see if we can get Amber back. Oh, Amber, we lost a bit of you there, I'm afraid. Can you go back about, say, 10, 15 seconds or so?
10, 15 seconds ago. Yeah.
You were saying strangest purchases.
Yes. So I actually saw several people purchase bidets because we had a toilet paper shortage here.
Yeah. It's like, why on earth, for a respiratory disease, why on earth would you buy toilet paper?
Yeah. Yeah, we had a massive toilet paper shortage. So we had a lot of people buy bidets. I'll tell you what, my house, we bought a singing Christmas tree because we just needed something to make us smile. So that was our strange purchase.
I'm trying to think what my strange is. It's very, very odd. Oh, I'll tell you what, actually, one of my more interesting ones. So obviously recently I've sort of come out as non-binary basically. And the thing is, when I'm out and about, sometimes I get stared at, it's a bit awkward. Some people aren't really familiar with LGBTQ. So I ordered a bunch of business cards from Moo. And what it has on it, it says, these tiny little business cards that say, "Hi, my name is Jamie. Do you have questions about my gender identity? Great, please turn over." And on the back, it's got a QR code, which links to a Medium article that I wrote, which contains a whole bunch of questions and answers about non-binary. So it's got things like, am I transgender? No. What does it change who I'm sexually attracted to? So I ordered 100 business cards, basically, sort of explaining myself, because you come out sort of to your friends and family, you come out once, but then you keep coming out to strangers and new people you meet over and over and over and over again. And basically, it becomes very tiring very quickly. So I basically created the Geeks version of a shortcut, which is, a pre-written article that contains full question answer of, things that people have asked. And every time someone asks something new, I can go back and update the article, and that's it. So that's been my most interesting purchase during pandemic.
Hey, that's a useful purchase.
It's useful, but I never thought I'd be, sort of ordering business cards in order to. I'm trying to remember where I got the idea from exactly, but I don't. I think someone else may have done it, like when they were coming out as transgender. I can't try to remember where I got the idea from. It escapes me. It'll probably come back to me later. But it's useful because it saves me a ton of time. If people do start sort of asking questions and whatever, then I just go, great, read this first. Then if there's a question on there that hasn't been answered, then you can ask me a question.
Oh yeah, that creates understanding, and it's a good use of your time as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's efficiency basically. It's the instead of repeating myself, one of the first mantras of programming is DIY, don't repeat yourself. So I'm just doing that and I'm applying that to a life hack.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Man,
that's
a really great, that's probably the most useful purchase that I've heard.
I must say it's not one I ever envisaged making, but it certainly has become very useful. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, useful in a way that's different than a bidet.
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely, but it's definitely it's up there with my unexpected purchases. So yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, definitely maybe a little bit more useful than my singing Christmas tree.
True. Yeah. But I mean, your singing Christmas tree gives you a little bit of joy at least. So,
That was the whole reason why I bought it, is I said, we need something that'll make me smile, and this singing Christmas tree makes me smile. So
excellent. Then it does its job.
Absolutely. Oh man, that's so awesome. I've also seen, if everyone has on their screens, you can we'll have actual like quiz times. And so we'll ask either or questions. So
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. If you, so we'll have questions like, if you would rather fight as in take on, you have to
Yeah.
use your imagination for this one, a horse-sized duck,
Or a duck.
giant-sized
Yeah.
duck.
Oh, I know this one. Would you?
100 duck-sized horses, what would you rather do? And we'll have people lean, to the right or to the left. And I've seen some very heated debates. I'll tell you what, I am a very staunch horse-sized duck person. I don't think I can take on 100 duck-sized horses. I think people underestimate how many 100 is. 100 is a lot.
Yeah. It is, yeah. 100 duck-sized horses could do some serious damage. Whereas one horse-sized duck, all you got to do is just get some bread and just feed it that, and it'll be happy.
It'll be fine. Yes. I found that with there's a generational. I've found a little bit of a generational gap between who chooses what. The younger generation, I find, more generally choose 100 duck-sized horses.
Fair enough.
I know, it's a little, yeah. So who would have thought there was a generational difference in that question? But yeah, but those are some questions that I'll use to engage, to engage my team members. And then also it shows that I actually have an interest. And I know it's a silly question.
Yeah.
I know these are silly things that we share, but it's almost creating a virtual water cooler.
Yeah. One of the things I remember many years ago, before I entered tech, I worked in cell phone stores basically. And one of my managers said that basically at home on a Saturday morning, my wife is in bed. I should be there making her, breakfast in bed, spending quality time with her, and all that. And instead, I am here with you folks, basically spending, I pledged to give my whole life to her, to have and to hold the ritual for her and all the rest of it. I have to spend more waking hours in the day, in my life, with you lot than I do with her. Make it worth it. So, it really reinforced the idea that, we should have good, strong, interpersonal relationships at work, because we spend so much time there. And I think this is also what's been great about the pandemic, is it's really shown that this sort of work-life balance has to be achievable, because now parents are spending so much time with their kids, and it's completely upended sort of what we assumed was the natural routine, and it's given us a load of sort of opportunities to say, hey, you know what, actually, if your kid has an upset tummy or something, that's fine, we can circle back around to this later. The time that we have with family, because people are literally dying from this disease. So, the more time we can spend with our family and loved ones, we work to live, we don't live to work, and that certainly during this crisis, that's really been emphasized. The former sponsors of this meetup, in fact, Red Cloud Technology, they had an office in Canary Wharf, which is the sort of, when you see a picture of the financial district of London, it's the iconic sort of shot from the sky, basically, which contains all the major banks and trade, commercial and retail banks have all got their headquarters there. It is literally the epicenter of the European financial market. And during pandemic, they downsized offices the first time because they didn't need as much space as they thought, because they had a few people hot desking. But then during the crisis, the CEO and the board basically made a decision, we're being perfectly fine and productive, fully remote. So they made the choice, right, that's it, office is closed. They've terminated the lease, and now everyone works fully remotely. So yeah, and they say, they've seen productivity's gone up because employees have been able to have that work-life balance, and spend time with their families. And that is, and that is so important, I remember about 10 years ago, I tried setting up my own sort of technical outsourced agency in the middle of the countryside. And people were like, oh, it can't be done. You have to be in offices. And I'm like, no. And we did. We actually made it work for a good while. So yeah, it's something that is hugely important at this time, is to be able to build a strong team that respects each other personally and, respects their time outside of work as much as inside of it.
It's so critical. One of my first days in HR, I had one of my mentors came to me and they said, Amber, you spend more time with your work family than your actual family.
Yeah.
And that hit me. I was very young at the time, and it really resonated with me and hit me. And, I think that the idea of work over here and life over here and it being a balance that way is almost a
Yeah,
laughable idea now, because the reality is that they're intertwined and it's really more of an arm wrestle. And
yes,
so we're really trying to find a balance of at what side of the pendulum are we on, because they are intertwined. And so
yeah.
we're trying to, it's a balance more this way rather than this way.
Oh,
And so
absolutely.
visual that we're operating off of. And I think that that's where the building and finding someone humble, hungry, and smart at the beginning is so critical, because these are going to be the people that you're spending so much time with. And
Yeah,
so we're bringing people, quality people to the table, and then we're actually giving people a voice and making that relationship. And so
absolutely.
really where you look at the full cycle of a team and of an organization, and that's really where those pillars lie.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's so critical. So um yeah, so I mean, it really does may have a huge impact on, especially on a remote team. And these are pillars and these are ideas that have always been, it's not like we haven't thought about how are we building better teams, but now it's a little bit different because we're looking at building remote teams. And so the idea of being together in the same office is, it's completely different now, because we have hybrid remote teams. We have teams that we aren't physically being together, and then you do have some teams that eventually will come back and they are in more of a brick and mortar environment. And so it's completely changed HR and put it a little bit on its head. And I think it's honestly allowed us to, the idea is still the same, but our approach has been a little bit different. So it's really given us the opportunity to be really creative. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's absolutely crucial to be able to have that balance. And yeah, a few years ago, I remember you were mentioning about cultural differences. I was working for, at the time, I was working for Universal Music Studios, and we were in charge in the London office. We were in charge of their website and online catalog in Japan, basically. So we were working with a team pretty much almost entirely on the other side of the world. And we had a product owner basically working with us in the London office, but originally she was from Japan. So she was obviously our liaison person in terms of translating between the team who were all speaking English and the requirements people over in Japan who were obviously speaking Japanese and not speaking English. So she was literally our translator, both in terms of culture and language and product requirements. So she was an absolute mainstay. And of course, she had to be able to get along with all of us. So yeah, no, circling back around to that culture thing, it's hugely important to respect, because you will, in today's society, if you do have a truly global team, then you are going to have people, like for some people, I know that in Central and Eastern Europe, you've got Orthodox Christians who celebrate Christmas or Easter at completely different times to the rest of the sort of traditional Christian calendar, and that's a part of their culture. So you have to respect it. So yeah, no, being able to find those commonalities and those bridges between your culture and your colleague and your team's culture is absolutely crucial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is so crucial. I mean, and again, it's that relationship side. So I mean, a huge thing that we do, at my company is we look at performance, and a good chunk of the time it's miscommunication, it's coworker tension, and
Mm,
it's types of things that really, sometimes we do look at we do of course take into consider processes and policy, but a huge amount of the time it's a human element, and the human resource element that is really critical in helping performance. And so that's where you have the building the team, and then you have valuing the team. And
yeah,
really, it's actually a good segue into that third pillar, which is training your team. And
yeah,
I think a huge way to show that value is to actually provide training. And if you're finding someone that is hungry and that is wanting to continuously improve, again, I go to the example of being a football coach. If we
yeah,
brought in the best players and paid them the most and didn't train them, then the talent isn't going to continue to rise. And it's a way to show investment in your people, and then
mm,
also raise the entire caliber of your organization as a whole. And right now in this season, I've actually worked with several organizations that are offering more people skills training because we're having to use that time management and personal innovation, not only to make it through, to thrive within our workspace, but to thrive within our life. And so that's a huge way that we've been offering training and showing value within organizations. And so whether that be training on a technical side of this is how emerging technology, this is a new process, this is a way that we can do this on a technical side, or
Mm.
it's on a soft skills side. I think it's important that we have investment in both, because again, it's not a one side or the other. They really do hold hands. And so it's bringing the caliber of your team up both on a technical skills and on your soft skills. And so offering that training really is can be an oversight sometimes, especially in remote teams. So it's you're at home, you're getting the job done, keep up the good work. But the reality is we want to continue to progress, and we want to continue to improve in the way that we're working, even while we're remote. And again, this comes with a whole new layer of innovation and how what training needs have changed, because some of them have changed within a remote team. And how can we best effectively train and improve our teams while we are remote? I know that some teams are doing if we have clusters of people that work in certain geographic areas, they'll have more of an area where they can come together and do maybe more of a meetup, and they can share ideas. Again, training doesn't always mean bringing somebody in and doing the training. It could be a meetup. It could be a Kanban day, which means everyone comes together and we share ideas on how we can improve. It could be, a cross training event. There's different ways that you can increase the caliber and improve the training and the abilities of the people on your team. So training comes with increasing knowledge, skills, and abilities. And so those are three very different things. Are you increasing the knowledge, increasing the skills, or the abilities? And we want to improve in all three areas within our team. And when it comes to remote teams, there's a big question on what knowledge do we want to improve? What skills do we have the opportunity to progress in, and what abilities can we continuously flex those muscles and be even better?
Oh, absolutely. I was going to say another good examples again of sort of rewarding sort of team culture. A good one actually from a few. I think it was 2 years ago. You mentioned that you were a football coach for PSG, and you must have probably crossed your radar at some point that Leicester City won the Premier League here in the UK. And the first thing that the new manager did, because obviously winning the Premier League results in a huge cash bonus, etc., endorsements, all that sort of stuff. And the first thing he did was go out and buy every single member of the team a brand new, I think it was some sort of Mercedes-Benz, but they each one clocked in at roughly about $200,000. So all in the team colours as well. So all perfectly matched. So sort of the team turn up for their first practice day after the season's finished, and they're there to train, and the boss sort of takes them outside and goes, "Look, guys, I've got a present for you." And every single every single player, goalkeepers, defenders, everyone has got themselves a brand new $200,000 car, basically in team colours, and that sort of reinforces that idea of team when you work together. And it was also the subject of a bet, the television program on the BBC, which was it's called Match of the Day, and it does the sort of weeks recap. It does the recap of the week of all the sports and things. And at the beginning of the season, when Leicester City were doing so well, the presenter said, "Well, as Leicester go on to win the league, I will present next season in my underwear." So he did, and he actually did it. It literally just in a pair of football shorts, just went, "Well, what a year it's been. I am going to hold true to my word." So the whole country had a good laugh at that. Basically, it was rather good fun.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, that keeps things very interesting.
Yeah, it certainly lightened the humour quite a bit. It was a masterstroke because he's very active. He's very active on Twitter. The presenter Gary Lineker, and yeah, just when Leicester did end up winning, everyone started tweeting. So come on, Gary. You know, when's this going to happen? and he took it all in his stride. You know, very very graciously went, yeah. You know, that's. Yeah, I said I was going to do it, and I'm a man of my word. So,
well, I applaud him for being a man of his word.
Yeah.
But that's a great way to keep engagement high as well. Sometimes
Oh
we
yeah.
can do silly.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, no, I like the whole idea, you know, rewarding the team when the team succeeds together, you know, and yeah, I mean, as much as each of the players could have gone and bought one of those cars themselves, you know, the fact that the manager did it and he, you know, thanks them because he couldn't have done it. They couldn't have done it unless they'd been such an effective team. So, and you mentioned about Kanban stuff as well. There's, I know that during pandemic, one company had this lovely marketing agency, and they basically said, well, actually, we've closed our offices too, but because we all live nearby, in case we do need to have a face-to-face meetup, we just go to the pub, basically, and we order a round of drinks, and we sit and chat about what we need to. It's a great way that we still get to keep face-to-face contact. You know, we're not paying for office space, and it's just great. You know, it's a way to still keep the team together, whilst, you know, whilst not actually having physical spaces to do that. So yeah, you know, I think a lot of companies and a lot of businesses are really, you know, it's also it's a bit of an adapt or die thing, because basically without these adaptations, these businesses will go under. So it's, you know, it's great.
They probably already have.
Well, exactly. The other thing as well, from a personal perspective as well, because I have Asperger's syndrome and bipolar disorder. And funny enough, next month, we've got Jeanette Washington giving a talk about ADHD and autism spectrum disorders. And it's called Your Special Abilities in .NET. And I tend to like freelancing because I take some medication for my condition, and it makes me particularly bad at mornings, basically. It comes with a raft of side effects, but one of the nastiest is chronic fatigue, basically. So I tend not to like doing full-time jobs, or at least I try and work in a way that gives me the sufficient flexi time that works around my medication schedule. And what's great is that the pandemic, all these adjustments, people with disabilities, whether they're physical or mental, have been asking for these sorts of accommodations for years, basically. And it's sort of frustrating, because the thing is, it's great that they've arrived, and, you know, better late than never, but we've been asking for them for these, and they are reasonable adjustments, and we've been asking for them for ages. And, you know, people have said, oh, well, if you can work from home, then can I work from home? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever adjustments you need, absolutely. As long as it's not, you know, I'm going to work from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m., you know, and not interact with any of my colleagues at that time, because of course that's not going to make an effective team. But if it's reasonable adjustments, and the key word is reasonable, and all of these businesses now forced to adapt have, you know, made reasonable adjustments, but these adjustments were available before. It's just that now people are now seeing that they benefit everyone, not just people with disabilities. It's you know, it's now become equitable, and that's really positive to see. So that more people with disabilities, whether physical or mental, can actually participate fully in being part of a team, being part of a company's culture and, you know, values. And it's reassuring to see. It's exhausting that this has been fought for years and years and years. It's great that it's finally here. We're just a little annoyed that it took a global pandemic killing, you know, quite a lot of people for this to come about. You know, that bit shouldn't have been necessary, but it is good to now know that we're at a point where now that section of the labour force, which otherwise would have been traditionally excluded, now actually has a big, loud megaphone attached to it going, this is how we can work. If you just make these adjustments, you know, all of us can get along together. And that is definitely, you know, it's great that it's finally here. You know, that part of the fight is now over, which is brilliant, you know, because I've even told clients, I said, look, you know, one client in particular said, oh, we offer flexi time, but only as long as you start between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. I went, well, that's not flexi time, is it? That's not really flexi time.
Really?
No, exactly. And frankly, I did actually comment this. You know, I said, look, I've asked for a reasonable adjustment. With all due respect, if you're not going to give it to me, then I'm going to have to take this to HR. And they went, right, okay, fine, thanks, but your 4-week contract's over today. Bye-bye. And I went, wow, is that really your attitude? You know, I asked for a reasonable adjustment from health condition and you asked me to leave. You know, the mind beggars belief that that people would just so quite brazenly and blatantly sort of break the law in that way. And it's quite hurtful when that happened. So yeah, but you know, now that we know that these adjustments can be made, having those sorts of arguments and discussions now has just become infinitely easier, because it's like, look, we did it during pandemic, we can do it now, you know. So that's great that, you know, that it's finally gotten to a point where we can now have sensible conversations about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it really, I was actually talking to someone earlier today about how it really has highlighted companies, both the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, I mean, have a company that has always exemplified value of employees, and they've always had that relationship and had that engagement, then more than likely it's been highlighted in the course of this pandemic. In the same regard, companies that don't have a healthy culture and that really were struggling pre-pandemic, this has just highlighted it even more. And so it really has just taken, for the most part, what has been and really has highlighted, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it really is that you, again, either make a change or you're probably not going to be around for much longer. And you know, it really down to that engagement and showing that value and having that culture. And I think that right now there's been a bit of a question of, well, I mean, they get to stay at home in their pajamas, why would they ever leave our company? But that's the last point, is there's a lot of companies that are offering that now. You know, you're not the only one. And so engagement boils down more to that. And that's really you know, where the retention effort comes into. And that's actually the last pillar, is engaging your audience to keep your team. If you put in all that effort of building your team, showing your value, training your top talent, then you need to have some sort of retention effort in engaging that talent and keeping them there. And again, that's going to be a little bit different. As I said, you know, this really has highlighted as well, not only good culture and bad culture, but I think it's also addressed the future of work. It has changed in some ways, but I think that there were directions that we were already headed. And this catapulted us even quicker, which in many cases has been a very good catapult. So conversations that were in the conversation stage, we were discussing them, have turned into action in a very quick manner, in light of everything that's been going on. And so for the most part, I don't think it's been a massive change. I think it's been more of a catapult in some regards in the future of work. Naturally, we've had to make adjustments and make a lot of other changes in other regards, but within building our culture and again, having that relationship with our coworkers, it's really been a powerful time, and a powerful time of discussion and action. It's not just theory, it's not just ideas, it's actually real action steps that we can take.
I was going to say, you mentioned about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So two examples I can particularly think of here in the UK. So the good, let's start there, because obviously loads of businesses were closed during lockdown, and basically the government has offered an 80% of salary scheme, basically, for employers, so that they can, so effectively the employer applies for cash bailout for the number of employees. They submit, you know, their pay slips and their previous pay slips and so on. And the government simply goes, okay, great, here is 80% money for that employee, done. You know, that means that they're still, you know, furloughed, but they're still receiving enough income to actually make sure that they can, you know, still survive during the pandemic and so on and so forth. And one company in particular called Timpsons, and they're a chain that does shoe repairs and locksmith services. And they're also really good because they hire ex-convicts specifically in order to rehabilitate them and get them, you know, back into society after serving prison time, which is fantastic. And now, instead of paying 80% of salary, Timpsons has taken it upon itself to actually pay the additional 20% out of their own pocket to make sure that all their employees receive exactly 100%, nothing changes, so none of their employees are out of pocket. So that's the good. The ugly comes in the chain of a bunch of pubs called Wetherspoons. And the employer, Tim Martin, who's the CEO of the chain, basically told all his employees to go get other jobs, and he was firing all of them via a video message on Twitter. Or was it Instagram? One or the other. Yeah. Basically, he was laying off all his staff, and he said, you can reapply for your job when it's all over, basically, and we might have you back. So no guarantees, nothing. Just literally laid off several thousand people via video link and with no plan. And basically everybody on the internet sort of went a bit berserk at this, because Wetherspoon specializes in cheap drinks and cheap food, at the very sort of budget end of the market. And so people were tweeting, when everything reopens, remember what this guy did to the thousands and thousands and thousands of employees and families that relied on his business. So from one extreme to the good, of Timpson's being absolutely fantastic to their staff, and literally, and I think it got written up in a national newspaper called the Sunday Times, and they actually got the figure wrong, because they said, this is probably costing us something like £2 million a month, and the CEO responded and went, no, it's costing us £2 million a week. So we just wanted to correct you. And of course Twitter went, damn, this guy's literally giving away with no government compensation, £8 million a month to all of his employees. That is a good employer. That is a good team. And that is what's going to keep staff. That's what's going to keep staff loyal. It's what's going to keep customers loyal as well. Because if customers see that a business looks after its own like that, it is fantastic. It's the best PR that money can buy, basically. So those are sort of the two examples of the good and the ugly that have been going on over here. So,
and it affects performance so much.
Absolutely.
If you're working for a company that cares about you, and that has been the sacrifices that they're making for you, you're more likely to make those sacrifices and to put your best foot forward for them.
Exactly.
And so it really is a two-way street. It is very much a relationship.
Absolutely.
It is. And I always tell people, the recruitment game is dating.
It
I
is.
worked as a corporate recruiter for a long time, and we compare it to dating all the time. I said, and then once we, sign the paper, that's kind of our marriage document. We're agreeing to be there for that person and to have that relationship. And just because right now we're doing long distance, I've actually spent quite a bit of time looking at long distance articles and talking to people that actually have long distance relationships and transforming that into our policy, in our corporate policy, because there's a lot of similarities, and that's where this whole idea of building, valuing, training, and retaining comes in. Is
absolutely.
These are the 4 pillars that we worked on in brick and mortar situations. So how can we take this and apply it in a remote situation? Because the value is the same. It's just the application is a little bit different, because now we're in a long distance relationship.
I was going to say one time I was going to say this was me sort of paying it forward after I'd had some good managers. Back in 2015, I was working with the Formula E Motorsport Championship in their very first season, and it was a baptism of fire. I'll put it that way. Lots of changes, lots of funding issues, all sorts. But one incident particularly really stands out. Well, 2 things. Basically, the day I started, I'd actually signed on to do another project, but I realized that these guys needed my help more. So I did substitution and basically told my other client, look, I'm sorry, you can hire someone for cheaper to do this, to do the work that you want to, doing. These guys specifically need my expertise in terms of scaling. They basically launched a website, first race, first season, 250,000 people trying to watch online. The whole thing crashed. So I arrived 9 days before the next race. So you can imagine the pressure. And I actually sat down at 5 o'clock with the head of technology, and he showed me the site, and I was like, right, guys, you need me. Look, I've worked on this. No, you need to change this. I went, look, and we immediately negotiated, sat down, shook hands, signed contracts, and I carried on working in the office until 8 o'clock that evening. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. But But while I was phoning up the hosting company, the first thing that happened was the head of design was sat a couple of rows over with the entire design team, and he had sort of overheard what was going on, and he sent around a message to his team and said, listen, I don't know who that guy is, but it seems like he knows what he's doing. If he needs anything from you, designers, give him whatever he wants. And that was great as a sort of professional plaudit. But then fast forward 3 months later, and the head of technology's left. The company has got several 100,000 in servers with cost issues, leasing issues from HP. And basically, we've got to add Facebook login to a feature that's unique to Formula E. It's called Fan Boost. Now, Fan Boost is a way of engaging with the fans. And the fans can basically vote for their favorite drivers. And the top 3 will receive, during the race, a 5-second boost to their car. Now, because most races are street style races, this becomes very interesting for sort of takeovers. You know, it makes the sport more exciting and so on. So I get asked to build a Facebook login to make it easier for fans to register and vote. And I just took a look at the code base and I went, my God, this is a mess. And I'd already been talking with the design team about creating new designs for the website, mobile friendly stuff. So, and great, one of the guys there, a guy called AJ, who was fantastic, came up with this beautiful single page design with a video in the background. It was just gorgeous. And it worked on mobile as well. And the key thing is we got asked to build Facebook login on Friday, ready for Monday morning. I looked at the code base and went, that's not going to happen with the current code. I said, listen, I said to my junior, listen, I know this is a bit of this is a sort of Hail Mary moment, but how do you fancy working the weekend to build the new designs as quickly as we can? And let's see if we can get them live on Monday. Now, I said, you are under because I'm a contractor, you are under absolutely no obligation to say yes to this. I understand if you don't, but I don't think the Facebook login is going to be doable any other way. Now, we overran by 2 days on Fan Boost. So, but he worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, and we finally went live with it on the Wednesday. Fan Boost normally opens 2 weeks before the race actually happens. So fans have enough time to engage with their drivers through social media and so on. So anyway, we get to Wednesday at 11 o'clock and it goes live and it's great. Everyone loves it. The board loves it. The designers are really happy. I'm happy with it. And so I walked straight into HR and I said, look, my junior's just worked the entire weekend. I want to give him the rest of the week off to play catch up. And she went, absolutely fine. You know, that's fine. Give him 2.5 days in lieu. Absolutely fine. I went, great. We're off down the pub. And we went down to the pub and I bought him his lunch and a couple of drinks. And at 2 o'clock, as we finished, we walked out and I went, right, I've got news for you. You can go home. And he went, what? I went, yeah, you can go home. I've spoken to HR because of the overtime you worked over the weekend. You are owed time in lieu. And I want you to take it now because I need you at your best. Crunch is fine for short term, but living in crunch isn't. And it ends up for every, I think I saw the numbers somewhere, for every hour you work above a 40-hour week, you actually spend an hour rectifying those mistakes. It becomes a net, you gain nothing. All you're doing is spending money and just carrying on making mistakes. So yeah, in remembering how decent some managers have been to me in terms of, you know, being able to get on with the team, I went to this guy, look, I need you at your best. You've done a brilliant job. There's your reward, which is pub, lunch, and you now have all the rest of the week off until Monday. I will see you next Monday. And he went, what? I went, no. I said, go on. You can come back and chat with Helen, but I want you out of this office now. Go home, sleep, see your girlfriend, right? Just enjoy the time off. I need you, after crunch, you need to recuperate the energy as quickly as possible, because otherwise you're just going to end up with a depleted team. So that was my sort of contribution in terms of paying it forward in terms of my team. So, and yeah, honestly, the guys I worked with there were some of the absolute best. I would work with any of the design team or that techie again. He's now no longer a junior. He's now a senior working for a fintech firm. But if I had the opportunity to work with any of them again, I would take it in a heartbeat, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great story. That's a great example. Yeah. Of, how important that it is that we recognize the human element.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and now it's just another level of intentionality. And if you've been practicing that in brick and mortar, then in a remote team, again, it's the same thing you've been doing, just in a slightly different format.
Absolutely.
So,
I was going to say it's now 7 o'clock here. I don't know if you want to carry on discussing this because normally we do anywhere between 1 and 2 hours. But if you have other appointments or anything you need to keep, then I'm more than happy to wrap things up and raffle off the prize.
So, I mean, I want to open the floor up to any questions that anyone might have. I just put my LinkedIn information up there. I am available on Twitter as well. It's my last name and my first name, Vanderburg Amber. I guess I can put that in there as well. But if anyone has any questions, yeah, this is really what we do is we look at how to increase performance and increase engagement in teams. So any questions that you have, especially in this remote time, I'd love to hear any questions that you guys have.
For me personally, I don't know if I have any. Andreas or Martin, the only other two people. If you want to check the chat window, because you're the host, you should be able to see them. Anyone messaging you directly.
Okay. All right. I'm not seeing anything for right now. Okay. All right. If you guys have any questions, again, I'd love to connect, love to reach out. Yeah, I'm always here if you have any questions or just want to chat. You now have an American friend that likes tea. So you can, it's been wonderful to be able to speak with you all and share a little bit about building remote teams. So
It's been fantastic.
Build your team, value them, train, and retain. If you're doing those 4 things, probably doing something right. So
fantastic. If you could just quickly switch the host back to me, I will quickly rattle off our prize and mention our next meetup, and then we can wrap that up.
Okay. I think I have switched.
Take a look. Have I been made host? No, you need to, so you click, if you look at my name, and then there's an option that says more, and it should be able to make individual hosts.
All right.
Got it? Perfect.
There it goes.
Excellent.
Sorry
All
about
right.
that.
No worries, absolutely fine. Okay, so Andreas and Martin, basically it's a 50-50 toss-up between the two of you. I have run, one second, let me quickly screen share. Where is my screen? Lovely, share screen, yes. All right, yeah, that's it, share, lovely. Okay, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have free stuff, which is obviously our JetBrains raffle. I have got down Martin Bellan, is that you? If you can message me just to say that is you, then I will send you details on how to email us and get your prize.
Woohoo, Martin!
There we go. All right, and just briefly onto information about our next meetup. We have Your Special Abilities in .NET with Jeanette Washington, Master of Education, on September the 8th, 2020, online unless otherwise informed. I doubt we'll be doing, honestly, between now and the end of the year, I think it's going to be highly unlikely that Canary Wharf will be returning to a physical venue anytime soon, given the likelihood of a second spike in COVID cases. And because Red Cloud, obviously our previous sponsors now don't have an office, we don't actually have a sponsor venue. So I will be actively hunting one out. However, if you'd also like to speak at this event, you can go to papercall.io/CanaryWharfNet to submit a talk, as Amber and Jeanette have previously done. All right, all it leaves me to say now is thank you so much, everyone who did join us. Thank you, Amber, so much for sharing your wisdom and insight. And hopefully see everybody at the next month's meetup. There we go. Thanks very much, Amber.
Thank you so much. You guys have a good day.
We sure will. We sure will. There we go.